Welcome to Tech Talk Nation, talking about the latest tech, industry news, and hot topics. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Visit our website at techtalknation.com.
Good evening and welcome to Tech Talk Nation. I'm your host, Matt Fitzgerald, and we have an interesting show for you tonight. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus here for a little bit of time. We had a couple of our co-hosts moving. We had a lot of stuff going on, and it's summertime, so I want to get outside and enjoy some of that weather there. But in the inside here, in the basement, just chilling here, we have a lot of tech news that has come out since we had our last broadcast. So today we're going to have a little bit of a different episode. We're going to kind of just talk about some of the stories that we found a little more interesting and not really be as structured as normal. A couple things we're going to cover today are Windows 11, getting started, some of the cool stuff. Well, actually, not so cool per se, with China banning Bitcoin and a rich billionaire near you heading out to space. So, with that, I'm going to transition over here, and we are joined once again with everybody from different locations. We have Matt Grislow and Ryan Eastman here with us today. Grislow, how are you doing?
I need a drink.
I could tell. Ryan, how about you? How's life?
I'm hiding from you, but I am here. Yes.
Good. Yeah, he's Ryan. You've got the you're still in process of relocating, so
A little bit.
So
I'll have the camera next one.
Definitely. Well, Grislow, you are happily coming to us from a new location, which is super cool, and you got to enjoy the wonders of moving the last couple weeks.
I got to enjoy and still enjoying it. Enjoying is a very liberal use of that word, but yes.
There you go. And Ryan, you relocated a fair bit, but you're getting settled in still, right?
5 hours. It's all good. Yeah.
Definitely. Cool. Well, we've got a lot of news to cover today, and the first one, and I'm sure everybody's heard of this by now, but Microsoft decided to do a thing, and they touted that Windows 10 was going to be the last Windows, and then they released Windows 11 this past week. So, like, I don't know. It's just one of those things where we'll go over it a little bit here, and then we're going to get a little bit of our thoughts on that. So transition over to the browser here. Microsoft released Windows 7 Preview, available to download now for people who are the inside beta testers, which I actually am. And it's very different from Windows 10 currently. It has this glassy looking UI. They decided for some reason to move the taskbar into the middle of the screen. I wonder what operating system they got that idea from. And they basically added a couple of features, like some snap viewing and productivity features, to make life a little bit easier. In addition to that, they're actually also going to be offering Android apps running natively within the operating system, and a more tablet-focused UI with better inputs and stuff like that. I think I covered most of it. Did I miss anything?
I
think so.
The TPM chip, maybe.
We'll get to that one. But feature-wise, I think that's pretty much the big new things. We got better glassy UI, split views, some cool inputting, and a central taskbar now. Their start menu is looking a little wacky. Actually, here's the picture of it. That's what the start menu will look like.
With the start menus in the center?
Yeah.
So that is the default, but you can change it. You are able to change it to go back to the bottom left corner.
Right. Well, anyway, that's all nice and good. But there were a couple of caveats that really threw a lot of people for a loop with this. And they decided, as Ryan kind of alluded to a little bit, TPM chips are a thing and need to be on your computer in order to run Windows 11. Oh, and also if your computer's like more than like 4 years old, yeah, you can't run that. So have fun. All right, thanks for watching. Come again. No kidding. But yeah, so long story short, Microsoft said that any processor before the 8700 era of Intel's chips and an undisclosed amount of AMD chips at this time were unsupported. So you couldn't physically install Windows 11 on those CPUs. And then in addition to that, they made another hardware requirement where you need to, in your laptop or computer or whatever, you need to have a TPM chip in that. And I forget what TPM stands for directly. It stands for Trusted Platform Module. That's what it is. Trusted Platform Module chip. And it's a physical chip on the motherboard that you need to actually do encryption and other sorts of hardware, encrypting your data through the hardware rather than software. So Windows will not let you install unless you have not the first generation, but the second generation. Like the second generation of this chip to even run this operating system. So I understand why they're doing it. I don't think requiring it right out of the gate was a wonderful idea. Just being like, hey, this is going to eventually come. But yeah, so that was a big dump of information. So where do you guys want to start on this one?
I mean, I've got a knee-jerk reaction. Well, I guess not knee-jerk because, you know, this has been out for, I think they released this, last week was the reveal. I think in terms of system requirements, for once in a while, I actually kind of like that they're doing this, because one of the things I found with Windows 10, when I downloaded it on my 4-year-old machine or 5-year-old machine, was that it was slow. It wasn't the best, and I didn't get a great overall experience. It made me not want to use my Windows machine as much as I, could have. I think that it's good to support a wide range of devices. At the same time, I think it's also important to recognize that there are hardware limitations. Whether those are actually superficial or not, I think it's up to debate or, people to actually dig in and do tests and things like that. But at least on that front, on the TPM requirement, I like it just because I've had experience where I've not been satisfied with my product after upgrading to the new operating system, and it only just made me frustrated and mad and not like the product even more. I suppose while I still have the floor on some of the other things you touched on, the productivity, I am actually excited for. I work in software, and so I work a lot with different windows and different screens. I have dual monitors, or I would have dual monitors at my home office. Once I get it up and running here, this will be probably changing. So you'll see, in the next few podcasts, it could look different. As well as at the office, both of my offices outside of my home, I use external monitors, and so unplugging, at least on the front of, you unplug your monitors, or you undock your computer, and it saves that sort of display arrangement. I really like that. It keeps you focused, and it helps you, remember where you were. So many times I forget, what I was doing when I come back the next day, and you spend time rearranging stuff, and it's just the ease of use that I really enjoy about that new feature. And also the ability to the sizes of the windows. I like that as well. I guess I'll end with this. I think that it's very clear now that they're trying to mimic another popular operating system from a company that has a logo of a forbidden fruit. I don't think I don't think it's controversial. I don't think that's surprising. Being different is good, but you know, I'm sure they've done enough research to find out that, you know, people want a certain look, and they always update Windows, right? It always looks a little different.
Right.
So I welcome the change, and we'll see where it goes. I'm not sure if you're going to touch on the Android apps running, because I do have a bit more to say on that, but I will leave that
We'll
for a separate
discuss
discussion.
that.
We
Good.
can transfer onto that next.
Good.
It's a little unfair to say they're just like outright copying. It's like they moved their taskbar to the center.
Fair.
That's the. Is there like another big change I'm missing other than that?
Well, here, let me show you
That's
the.
It's the
one
overall
thing that
look.
looks like that.
Yeah, it's the
It's
overall.
the
look.
overall design cues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The design
here.
cues from everyone have been going towards that though for about 10 years. This is the first time they've updated their icons in
Forever.
Lord knows how long. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
true. Like,
I mean, that being said, I could care less about how it looks, because I mean, I've never been wowed by any new, you know, icon Microsoft puts out, or a new, you know, graphic they put out.
right.
I don't know. I think the way kind of describing it is a little bit inverted. I don't care about. They shouldn't be requiring better hardware to run their systems. They should be optimizing their systems.
That's a
'Cause I don't know
very
if you
good
know
point.
this. Yeah, I
That's
don't
a
know
good
if you
point.
know this, but you can actually strip Windows down a bunch. I've gotten it as low as like, I think I had it just under 800 megabytes of RAM usage versus the usual like 3 gigs
Really?
it takes on startup. Yeah,
Wow.
you can reduce it a ton, and it's really stupid that it's so heavyweight all the time.
By
For just no
default.
apparent reason.
Right.
Yeah, by default, for no apparent reason.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the give and take?
I don't know, because I've never had a worse experience when I did that. Like, it functions the exact same, it seems to me.
It just seems so drastic.
I could expect
It
it
is.
to be.
It's a lot of like small background stuff that I just turn off. I get rid of. I don't need.
Right,
Mm,
and all
It
that
makes
adds
a
up.
huge difference. Yeah, it adds up.
That's a good
lot.
point.
Right.
Like, I don't understand why they don't. I mean, I guess it's an ancient operating system at this point that they've been tacking bits onto for a long time.
Exactly.
So like disassembling it and figuring out what's interacting with what at this point is probably like some kind of insane labyrinth to navigate through. It's kind of the
Do you mind
opposite.
Do you mind if I pose a question to you?
Sure.
Do you think that Microsoft should pivot completely away from Windows and create some sort of completely different operating system so that they can start from scratch?
I wouldn't mind seeing that, starting with something new and that they can well document. But the man hours for that are also insane.
Yeah.
Especially because they have to go from nothing to something that's immediately competing with Apple. And that's a big leap.
Mm-hmm.
And
Very
it's still
true.
going to be using the same x86 most likely.
And do you think it's worth it? Should they do it? Or should they just stick with Windows till the end of time? Or until they, you know, run the company into the ground?
Obviously, I think long term that might be a better solution, but short term it's a lot of work. I mean, the other option is to just like mainstream Linux almost and just release their own branch of it, but that's not something they're ever going to do, I don't think.
I was going to mention that. I'm like, I would love to see some sort of like Microsoft brand Linux, basically like it doesn't have to be Windows or anything like that, but it's never going to happen. It's just one of those things where it's like one can dream. I mean,
yeah.
Honestly, this UI is very reminiscent of even like your Ubuntu or something like that. In my opinion, what the GNOME desktop, like it's very reminiscent of that.
It's a little gnomish, you know, whatever people like to call it.
I don't know. I've only read it. I've never heard it.
I've heard it called GNOME a lot.
Okay.
I've never seen it, so I can't speak intelligently on it.
Let's see.
It's beautiful. That's what I use like 80% of the time, to be honest, is a Linux desktop, because it's just everything about it to me feels smoother, better. But
yeah, this is
also a pain to patch. It's a pain to diagnose what's going wrong. It's a lot more work.
Yeah, this is
and that's why people don't use it.
GNOME apparently desktop. Yeah,
Yeah.
Very, very reminiscent of
Yeah,
kind of,
Arch's take on Gnome is really good too.
yeah.
I can't wait for the people in the comments to be ranting and raving about how you're either pronouncing incredibly correctly or horribly wrong.
I'm
no,
sure.
I'm
Well,
pretty sure it's good.
I still,
For those that are on the YouTube live stream, not those that are on the other platforms listening.
I mean,
Yeah, it's fine.
for me at least, like
Anyway,
I
the
made.
point being, I think it's backwards. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna make a little side comment because like I learned a lot of like the programming and stuff like that by just reading about it. I never heard half of these things like pronounced, and then I get into the workforce and people or school or whatever, and people are like, "What are you saying?" I'm like, "Oh, it's SQL. Oh, you mean SQL?
SQL. Yep.
Oh, it's just SQL."
Yeah.
Like,
But that happens with a lot of things, though.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
my parents, for the longest time, called it. It wasn't Airbnb. It was one of the other ones. VRBO. And then they came out with a commercial recently, and it was Verbo. And I showed them the commercial. My dad the commercial, and he's like, "That's not the real commercial." I'm like, "Dad, this is from the company. This is real. This is how they pronounce it." He's like, "No." It's like, okay. You go tell Mr. Verbo that it's VRBO.
there you go. Right. Anyway, Ryan, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, but to put it back on track.
Sorry,
I
Ryan.
think it's backwards. They need to my knowledge, what's going on under the hood isn't drastically different.
Right.
It's mostly the same. They've tacked on extra functionality, some smarter features.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think they should probably gut the whole OS for the most part. And because it's really like all of their like non-visual stuff that needs rework.
Completely agreed. Like how big is the system directory in Windows?
Yeah.
It's like 3 gigs or something stupidly
Like,
huge.
I don't have any issue with their design language. Almost all the graphics look fine to me. They're just different. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's just their whole back end is very, very heavy, and it needs, I think, I don't know. It's hard to even recommend that because I couldn't even tell you how many thousands of man hours it'll take to overhaul all that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like completely going from assembly all the way up to like your GUI. Like
All right, I'm not
there's
going that
Oh.
far.
okay. I mean,
I'm not saying start there. I'm saying you can probably start in like C, C++, and go from there.
okay. I'll
Maybe
take
Rust
that.
or something less prone to memory leaks, obviously, but
Right. Yeah, it's just one of those things definitely where if Microsoft is I feel like they've been doing this every other version of Windows, at least in my opinion. They tack on a new GUI, they tack on some pretty fixes. They don't do anything really novel per se, but they just kind of are like, okay, cool, this is a new operating system, everybody buy it.
well, they are doing something a little novel, and that's adding in the ability to run Android apps.
Great transition. You picked up on that.
Novel is using it loosely, because I would say it would be novel if it was robust and worked, or will confirm to work robustly, and
Yeah, here's
that's
the
a
thing.
crapshoot at best.
Yeah, it is. They're trying to do basically the same thing that Apple just did during their switch to ARM, which is basically a runtime conversion of their machine of what do you call it, bytecode to something that Microsoft can understand.
Right. Basically taking the ARM instructions and translating that to something x86 understands, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at a compiler level. So when you're running Java, what you're actually seeing is bytecode, and that gets compiled at runtime into something runnable by ARM. I think they're trying to make a translation layer basically for what's supposed to be meant for ARM to work instead with something that's x86.
Now, if they do that, that would actually be pretty novel. Like,
No, that's almost one-to-one what Apple just did.
I mean, yes,
That would be pretty novel, wouldn't it be?
but for Microsoft, I
And
mean,
listen, I am happy to make fun of Apple any day of the week, but they did a really good job with that compiler setup they made there.
Oh yeah, the M1 has been amazing. Like
But yeah,
you don't even
getting their
notice.
x86 to run on that efficiently is
Oh.
it's really good. And I know one of the reasons they can pull that off is the guy who made Swift is like one of the smartest like compiler designers of all time, and he's still in Apple, I think.
Yeah, I could see it. Also, side note, today I was on a meeting, and my team has a couple guys who live out west, and it was very, very hot where they were at today. And it was so I have an M1, he had an Intel, and the thermal throttling got so bad that his computer literally left the meeting for him and shut down.
Ooh.
Like it was really, really hot there, and he was in his house, and he's like, the fan, I can't even hear you, the fans are running so hot on this computer. And yeah, it thermal throttled himself out of the meeting. So that was fun.
Dang. That's like your phone saying you can't work and it's not going to turn on until it gets cooler. That's
Exactly, literally that, but a business computer.
But yeah, that is rough.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. On having that on the system level will be really interesting to see. I mean, we saw how Apple did it and they knocked it out of the park. Let's see if Windows can follow that up. If Microsoft has the cojones to make it happen. So
yeah. To derail us for just 1 second, just because this is fresh in my mind and it's coming up because of Apple's M1 chip. I'm pretty sure Google is about to release their own in-house ARM chip this year.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yep.
I forget what they called
That's
it.
just something to look out for. I believe it's called Whitechapel.
Yep, that's it.
Interesting
Yeah,
name.
that'll be interesting to see how their take on ARM goes.
Is that like the code name?
Yeah, the code
the
name is
project?
Whitechapel. And I mean, it will be an SoC, so it should be, very comparable to what would go on an iPhone, but who knows?
Right.
Honestly, Android could use some paring down too, because it's in Java instead of C++, but that's besides the point.
All right there, purist.
No kidding.
But yeah,
Just
definitely.
pointing out that nothing writes. It's hard to find more efficient code than C.
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna argue with you on that. So yeah, you just get nothing and have to do everything.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
But you can do it efficiently.
there
If
you
you're
go.
not stupid.
There you go. Well, one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about too, with that TPM issue that we were talking about, the trusted platform stuff, what actually has been happening is people are scalping the modules on eBay. People are buying these that they can now add to, I think you could put it on USB or something like that. I don't even know. But people are scalping these like breakout boards and all this stuff. Like there's this tweet here that says $24.90 to $99 in 12 hours for these modules. And it's just ridiculous. I think people are just like, welp, we're gonna have to figure it out. So
Am I not surprised?
I mean,
Yeah.
leave it for people to make a quick buck on that. But I don't
When you
know.
talk about chip shortage, I mean, are these going to be the next, scarce item that people are trying to buy, as well as, the video cards and all kinds of other electronics? I mean,
I never really thought about that, honestly. I was just like, oh wow, they're requiring this. Well, that's going to make like half the computers in existence right now useless. But
I mean, price went up because of the probably not only because they could charge that much because people were willing to charge or pay that, but I guarantee you, if this continues, as well as the chip shortage, that price is either going to stay there or go higher, and not because the company is able to charge that much just because of how willing people are to put up that much money, but also because of the amount that they've got.
right.
Large demand, small supply.
We'll see. we will definitely have to see on that one. Alrighty. Well, moving on, talking about a lot of money. The next kind of topic that were we done with Windows? Do we want to talk?
I mean, do we want to talk about the Android apps?
I mean, we kind of did. I don't know how well it's gonna run. We gotta see.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
Well,
see.
did you guys get the lowdown on how that it actually is going to work?
I read an article on it. I want to see your thoughts on it.
I think it's hilarious. They advertised, because I won't say I watched the whole event because I didn't. I watched like an 11-minute recap on CNET. Shout out CNET. Also shout out Marquez Brownlee. He did a really good little take on it, and he did a great explain on it. When you were talking about Fitz, the different on and off operating system versions of Windows, I thought you were kind of alluding to his take on it.
I didn't even watch that, honestly. So
yeah, it came out, I want to say maybe a few days ago, let's say 4 days ago. But yeah, they build this as you can run native, just like Apple. You can run Android apps on Windows. At face value, that sounds amazing. It's directly competitive with Apple. It's on par with what they're doing. And again, from face value, it sounds great. Really though, it's really deceptive marketing. And in order to do it, you have to have, they're pairing with Amazon to get this working, their web services or something. And you have to have
Amazon's app store.
Well, yes. Well, you have to have an Amazon account to do this, to sign up for Amazon. And then you also are going through, I believe, their store, like you said.
Store. Mm-hmm. You're going through the Amazon App Store and the Microsoft Store. So
yeah. So it is not nearly as seamless of a integration as they want you, or as they're leaning or trying to get you to believe. And not only that, but do you really expect them in the first iteration of this partnership and this arrangement for it to be incredibly in sync? I didn't have a Mac. I don't really know what it's like to be running iOS apps on the Mac. Mm-hmm. But I guarantee it wasn't smooth sailing the entire time. Not to mention, you're putting apps on a desktop potentially, or just in general a computer that were built to run on touchscreen devices. Do you honestly believe that at launch, every feature on every app is going to run seamlessly? I mean, a great example of what they showed on their keynote, TikTok. It's all touch input. No one uses a mouse or a wireless keyboard on their phones, on their iPads, on any of their tablets, or I should qualify that because we're talking exclusively Windows. If you have an Android phone, you're not plugging in external peripheral devices. You're not. It's all touch input.
You have a Samsung phone and you're running Dex, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
Sure. My point being, they build this feature and sold it as one of the leading, big features of their new operating system or new version of Windows. They build this as this robust, very capable feature. In reality, I don't expect this to be anywhere near what they advertised, at least in the first 1 to 1.5 major releases. And that includes the first, Windows 11 release.
I'm going to have to point out the fact that so many Windows laptops now just come with a touchscreen.
Right.
So it's not as if you're going to be left completely in the dark. But a lot of us use Windows for our desktop, which who knows how or if that'll work. That kind of remains to be seen.
Well, not only that, but they were also pushing things, and this is aside from the running native Android apps, pushing things that you see on a lot of mobile devices like widgets, and really trying to push their whole widget ecosystem. I really could care less about widgets on my home screen right now. My one of my work computers, I guess, updated, and now if I accidentally like touch my mouse a certain way, the little bar on my or little portion of my taskbar that shows the current weather and like a little icon pops up in this huge thing where it's giving all kinds of stuff I could care less about. If I want to know anything about the weather, the news, any relevant information in my life, I look at my phone. I can care less on my computer, and especially because I'm on my computer to work. My work computer is for work. It's not for looking at this other stuff.
I mean, I'll point out that the addition of widgets, you can add Google Calendar now to your home screen. You can add like your to-do list and all that stuff to just like your desktop screen. Like all that stuff, to me, I can see a use case for it. Now,
Sure.
Every Android game, forget that. That's the stupidest thing. Don't do that. Don't do social media apps from Android phones. That's dumb.
Right.
But some of the productivity stuff you can steal from Android might actually be worthwhile.
I could see it. Yeah.
Some of it.
Some of it, yeah.
I guess at the end of the day, you know, billing these two features, and again, mainly that, you know, native Android apps running on Windows, it's not going to work well. I don't expect it to. That
We
also
can't say that until it comes out, but probability.
I mean, Ryan, that's like saying you got to wait till iOS, whatever we're on, 14 comes out, and you'll see how perfectly it runs. Every new release of iOS, and at least historically in the last, I want to say at least 3 iterations, there have been really bad bugs, one of which being one of the absolute worst of the battery health of the iPhone 11. And just, you know, I mean, not to mention some of the other issues that they have. But it's a new operating system, and not only a new, like, you know, version, it's a whole new, you know, thing. It's not like a 0.5 or a 0.0.0125, you know.
Well, they have a
Right.
little experience of this from the Microsoft Go days, though.
Yeah, I mean, and then again, I guess supposed to piggyback off of something Marquez Brownlee did mention, I really just don't see people taking to widgets, and especially people who haven't used widgets before. I think there's already a market for widgets. I think there's plenty of room to grow that market, but it's only to a certain extent. Windows is a very workstation, you know, very work-oriented operating system. You use it at work, and I can't tell you how many people, you know, that I know that are in the working world, that I work with in the working world, who have issues, you know, with the current operating system we have, without adding other features. They could care less about adding features. They just want what they have to work.
Yeah.
So I don't really think that some of these things like, you know, adding widgets and making sure that Android apps run natively on Windows is really what, I guess what I'm getting at, is really what Windows needs to be.
Yeah. It's a cool thing that, you know, I'm kind of okay with them adding, but their man hours would have been better put towards making the system run smoother and more reliably.
And I guess it goes sort of to the question I gave you earlier. Maybe these are features that they need to prioritize in a separate operating system they use in separate use cases. Because I don't think that they really need to be pushing these, you know, as part of the main, you know, Windows OS, you know.
So basically making like Windows 10 tablet Windows 11 tablet and then Windows 11 productivity or something like that.
Well, that's one of the things they do say they're focusing on is a more mobile experience.
Right. And
Yeah.
but do I really want a button that takes up half the screen if I'm on desktop? Like, same thing.
You know, that's why you have 2 different operating systems, right? The whole point is to optimize your experience for the hardware that you've got, or for the experience you're trying to create.
Mm-hmm.
Although, I mean, I do believe they, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought they did, and I might be thinking of Samsung, scrapped one of their OSs, or sent it to the graveyard recently. I might be wrong.
Trying to create their own. I can't remember.
I think I really think it's worthwhile in the end. Kind of like, I mean, every I don't want to say every company. I mean, it's the evolution, of life. You
Right.
move on to the next. If something works for a good amount of time, and it's a great product. Nothing horribly wrong about it. But there's improvement, and there's things that can be better. And sticking to the same thing, maybe it's time to. I mean, Ryan, you mentioned it would take a lot of time, but Microsoft is worth a lot of money, and they're not going to leave money on the table if other people are doing it differently or doing it better, and they're just going to stick with their one product because that's what they want to do, and that's all they're going to do.
I mean, it is at this point a stupidly large industry, or not industry, corporation. So getting the right people and the wheels moving on that is probably so hard when they pull in so much money from all their services.
Well,
I can see
mean,
it.
you gotta make a decision at some point, and especially when it comes at the cost of, am I losing customers? Am I potentially alienating future customers?
Oh yeah.
Am I going to?
Am
I helping facilitate bring in new customers? I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just trying to explain the why. I agree. That's what they should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's
And
fair. That's fair.
Another thing to kind of bring up with this discussion too is kind of the namesake for this episode. And this article by ZDNet here says millions of Windows 10 zombies. So what's going to happen to all these machines that are unable to run Windows 11 now because of all of these changes that they've made? And some of the things that I just find interesting about this article per se is he kind of is a little lighthearted in writing this, and it a little more poking fun at them. But basically, people were like, okay, Windows XP barely died when they stopped support for it just because of how ingrained it is in society. And I feel like we've started to get to that point with Windows 10. We still have Windows 7 that's still making up a large portion. And the author here brings up this graphic here. It's basically the U.S. government has an analytics site for every device that has ever accessed a government website, and it shows Windows 10 is currently 90%. Windows 7 is still 6.44%. Windows 8 is 0.52%, and the other 50% of the 0.28 percent other is Windows XP still. So, it's crazy to think though that this is how this is distributed now, and what happens when we're going to throw Windows 11 in here and only the Windows 10 computers that have been manufactured in the last 4 years can get that, assuming you have the right hardware, yada yada yada, and they don't relax their requirements. Is that even going to change much? You still see Windows 7, 8.8 and 8.1 are still yikes, but Windows 7 still has a very large market share, and that's still being supported. But even XP is still being used. It said somewhere here, it says 15 users access government sites still using Windows 3.1. So,
oh boy.
Yeah, but it's one of those things.
Someone's getting hacked.
Yeah, right. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, are we going to be left with a e-waste crisis because Microsoft isn't allowing you to upgrade your software on these older machines? I don't know.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I mean, even upgrading.
It's very likely, especially if there's a hardware requirement.
Right. Upgrading from 2000 to 7, or sorry, XP to 7, and even 7 to 10. You really didn't have that huge of a hardware change. I mean, granted, XP to 7 that's a very large hardware change, but like 7 to 10, your base level requirements really didn't change. It was more or less, yeah, you needed like 2 gigs of RAM to run Windows 7 pretty okay, and then the minimum requirements for Windows 10 are 2 gigs as well. So like, you don't have that big of a hardware change. They didn't say, oh, you need to have like a touchscreen, or you need to have this TPM module now, rendering that device unable to be upgraded, therefore useless. Well, useless in the sense of serving a sustainable business need.
I mean, I guess a good question to ask, and because I don't know the answer, and I'm on my phone, and the only internet I have is on my phone. When was Windows 10 released?
2015, I believe. Let me check. I believe it was 2015.
And I'm basing this sort of off of again of what I know which is Apple. Every year they come out with a new operating system, and every year I think it amazes people sometimes how they're able to support the devices that they still do. What is that, 6 years now? You said 2015?
Yeah, it was released in 2015.
6 years.
So 6 years.
6 years is a good amount of time to support some of those older devices, especially some of those older machines that were, I'm sure, on the cusp of barely working at all. And that's just having the minimum requirements, right? That's just so you can minimally run Windows. Not that you can get the best performance out of it. That's just the bare, minimum.
I guess
I'm not gonna poop. I'm not gonna poo-poo it too much just because, they're requiring you to have some sort of hardware. They're doing it for a reason, and I'm sure the biggest of the reason is they don't want users to have a poor experience, and as a result of that experience, either leave the platform or put bad words to the Microsoft and Windows name.
I actually have two.
I don't disagree with that.
Number one, the reason why they did this, cited in a couple of articles that I read, is because the increase in firmware-based hacking. So targeting the firmware of the computer, like the physical BIOS, what even starts the boot process before Windows takes over from there. So I understand why they do it from that point of view. My other point is, at least for people like me, I want to get the most I possibly can out of my devices. Like, I still have laptops that are running from 2000 that I've made work in ways. Granted, yes, they're not running the most recent Windows, but they're still doing a purpose. I guess the thing that I have a hard time with, and while I understand completely why they're making this change, it's because to prevent some of these hacks and improve security and stuff like that. It's just like, is it really the best thing to do right now to make it a requirement from going from none to requirement? Like, I would rather have an intermediary basically being like, okay, it is highly recommended you have a TPM module within your computer, but if you don't, here's the risks. Like, all of that. So
I can only imagine the amount of customers at Best Buys, you name it, stores, with tech help, people coming in with issues almost solely based on everything you've just said, like the potential for something bad to happen. I understand that you want to get you want to squeeze the most amount of lemon juice out of your lemons, the lemons being your computers, right? And juice being your performance or the life of technology. But, Fitz, I love you, but to put it bluntly, I really don't know why we're running 20-year-old machines. Not to mention all of the, not to mention the performance and all that, just security-wise, that is a risk.
Oh, it's 100% a risk, and I
understand you're taking it on. That's fair and fine. And as a consumer, you take on that risk whenever you buy a new product. you use a new operating system, you stick with an operating system that's no longer supported, you stick with hardware that might be faulty, you default on your warranty, whatever. I understand, the concept and the idea that you want to be the master of your own destiny with your technology and hardware, but I think there has to be a certain point logically where you go, all right, it's time to retire this, move on to the next. It's time to recognize that, there are issues with this. Let's upgrade. I think that there's enough arguments out there for that to go along with that sort of line of thinking.
Okay, that's a fair
I'll be honest with you. I've talked to you a ton on technology and stuff. This is the first time I've ever heard you say I'm running machines that are 15, 20 years old.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where when you're running a home lab, you're running an environment, you want to experience all of the technology, and in a lot of cases, some of these older hardwares that I run really give you insight into why things are the way they are now, as opposed to how they were then. Like I have an old DL360 here that I was running that is still 32-bit. It isn't 64-bit, and I think it's from like 2004, like really, really, really old. And it's basically one of those things where I understand why these things work now because of that. But anyway, I don't want to go into a ton of detail on that. I like squeezing every bit of performance and every bit of value I could get out of a device. I don't want to contribute to the e-waste problem or anything like that. And by Microsoft making this move, I just feel as though they've accelerated the e-waste problems very slightly. But is this going to be the tipping point for some people who are going to be like, oh, I can't run the newer operating system. Let me just go get another computer and we could get this one out to the curb.
If I can close on one comment, I mean, you pulled up the graph with how many people have Windows 10 and the other operating systems. I remember when Windows 10 first came out, and I was working at a medical instrument company back in Illinois, back 8 years ago at least, or so. And the software couldn't run on Windows 10, and that's the way it was. None of their software could, and that's just the way it was. And that was the way it was for a long time for a lot of companies. As great as this Windows 11, I'm sure, could be for individuals, for businesses, or whatever, I don't think you're going to see the adoption. You're going to see a similar adoption with Windows 11 as you did with Windows 10. It's going to take a long time for that user base to grow to what we just saw right now with those, or whatever it was, 10 minutes ago, with those government graphs. And don't forget the people that have their tinfoil hat that don't want anything to do with the government either.
There you go. Well, great
right
way.
Here.
I'm sorry, Ryan?
I said, hey, I'm right here. You don't have to talk about me like I'm not in the room.
Nice.
Yeah, the government, the people that are afraid with their tinfoil hats and that put tape on their cameras or don't show their faces because they don't want to show up on anything, Ryan. That's out to you.
There you go. Well, in other news, there's a bit of a, I'm not sure to call it a crisis, or I don't know what to call it, but basically in China, they're shutting down over 90% of their Bitcoin mining capacity after local bans and a nationwide crackdown against cryptocurrency mining. So basically, it says many Bitcoin mines in southwest China's Sichuan province were closed as of Sunday, and everybody's been cracking down on it. And it's just kind of crazy to think about the way everything's going. Like this country, the country just said, hey, you can't do this, and then everybody else is just like, oh, okay, I guess we're gonna move or something. And Bitcoin has taken a pretty big hit from it, actually, in terms of the value and processing power.
I mean, don't forget, there is a little secret to that, which is what is said by the government goes in that country. So,
True.
I mean, yeah,
it's a little different, but still, that's not so hot, not very cash money of the Chinese government.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're probably the only country that could ban Bitcoin because of their internet, like them in North Korea.
Yep.
Everywhere else, everything's decentralized enough, and like not every access point's monitored by the government. Where, they can IP ban exchanges. That's fine. They have decentralized exchanges all over that you'd normally be able to just flout the ban with.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because of that internet that they can even pull it off.
Right.
Yep.
And honestly, one day satellite internet's going to become a thing. Someone's going to beam satellite internet to China, then even that won't work.
Right.
Elon Musk is gonna make a lot of money.
Well, the interesting thing is, though, in this article, it also states that all these miners, they're still going to mine. They just need to figure out somewhere else to go. So
yeah, I think what's more interesting is the short-term implications for the prices of Bitcoin.
Right.
Because on one hand, there's going to be less transactions that are able to be processed, and less Bitcoin's going to end up being mined. So does that make the price go up or down? Because the use cases for it are harder to use it for because it's going to be slower, but it is also at the same time going to be more scarce. So it's
well,
that's an interesting catch-22 sort of situation.
It's interesting to see what it's going to end up doing to the price. The price has kind of stayed pretty. It's made some drops. It's made some bumps. It's a little all over, to be honest.
Well, this was literally published a little bit ago. This was published at 11:40 this morning. China's crackdown wiped $400 billion off the market as Bitcoin slide. It says Bitcoin, Ether, XRP, and other currencies fell sharply. Let's see. Actually, they look pretty up, believe it or not.
We're actually back to where it was just before that slide. To be honest.
Just before that slide, it just got back up.
The slide you're talking about, it dropped it all the way down to 28. We're all the way back up to 35.
Okay.
I mean, I think that just reiterates how volatile crypto is.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it could take a hit, a meteoric hit one day, and then surge to the moon the next. It just I suppose is just kind of the nature of it.
Right. Definitely.
Literally, I'm used to seeing my portfolio fluctuate by 15% on a daily basis. So
that would have my heart skip so many beats. I would be in was it anaphylactic shock or not anaphylactic shock, but arrhythmia. Oh my god!
There you go.
Just kick your feet up.
That's it.
I would. Nope. That is why I refuse to go into Bitcoin. I mean, also amongst other things, just the lack of research and time spent looking at all that kind of stuff. But jeez, no gracias.
What I was trying to say before my audio so graciously cut out is all I do is I kick my feet back and just relax, and I know that I'm in it for the long run. So all the short dips and turns don't really matter to me.
Alrighty, well,
I suppose that's fair.
Here's our obligatory. We're not financial advice. There we
it
go.
is.
We got it.
Can we please have T-shirts made? We are not financial advisors.
That would be funny. That would be our first merch. We are not.
I would
financial
buy
advisors.
that and wear that so proudly. Out of context, it doesn't even matter. It's funny.
That is pretty funny. But
have the first phrase here, and then the entire paragraph on the back of the disclaimer. That we have someone who does law and studies this, and is good at contracts and stuff. Can very elegantly lay out, but is very, very, very careful and very specific on what we are very certain on what we cannot be and cannot say.
Well, there you go, Grislow. Get on it. Merch drop 1 coming soon. Apparently, we'll see if that works. But anyway,
I'd be down to just make T-shirts for us. I mean, I'd wear that.
Hey, we'll see.
I'll get a coffee mug that says that.
That would be pretty cool. Like some sort of coffee mug. Yeah, I support.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just anytime we do that, pick
Ooh.
that up, start drinking it.
Ooh. Okay, you got me thinking now. Talk to me in like a week and a half. I might have something for you.
Sounds good. Sounds good. In other news, we are continuing down our path here of kind of like the topics that we always discuss on every episode for some reason. And we're going to be talking next about good old Jeff Bezos heading out to space here. But an interesting fact about this is more than 130,000 people have signed a petition to keep Jeff Bezos in space to prevent him from returning to Earth. And I okay,
I
like
think there's just like some law written into the universe that once you pass $1 trillion, your first instinct is I got to go to space.
apparently, well, it sounds like it, but we'll see. And apparently, 130,000 people don't really want to have him back after he takes that leap
I
out to the
mean,
great beyond.
I, I'm sure that's also probably, and this is me speculating, I'm sure it's also probably the people that are upset that he made so much money during the pandemic, but also, of course, he did. He runs he's a CEO of an online shopping company in the middle of a pandemic where you can't go to stores because they're closed or they have restricted hours. Of course, he's going to make money.
Right.
That the whole thinking is absurd. Now, I mean, should he, make bonuses bigger at the end of the year? I'm all for it. Should he increase the pay a little bit if that makes sense for the bottom line? If it financially makes sense, sure. But hating on someone and for just being successful in whatever,
Oh well.
go do something else more productive than complaining about someone else. But yeah, it's silly.
I wish
silly.
society listened to that. Alrighty, moving on. No kidding. But any other final words on this article?
Ryan, I'll let you go first.
I don't think you can legally keep them in space. Pretty sure that violates something.
Well, you brought up a good point. In space, apparently there's still a debate as to whether or not he's actually going to be in space. I suppose there's a line, I forgot what it's called, like the barrier between our atmosphere or Earth and space is hotly contested, and it's only being more hotly contested now that Bezos is being thrust into the spotlight. Thank you. Yes, is now being even more contested that he's being thrust in the spotlight about doing this trip with his brother next month. Or yes, it is next month. Jeez, end of It's the end of June. Oh boy, my head. I guess that tells you where my head's at right now.
Wow.
Yeah, no kidding. I've had a rough day. I've had a rough week. I've had a package stolen from me. My Wi-Fi that was supposed to work isn't working. I spent an hour trying to troubleshoot it. Spent a half hour on hold, and eventually told me a tech would be coming out to me tomorrow. So that's been a nice little welcome to my new area. But yeah, I think it's silly. I don't really know if this Blue Origin thing is really going to take off. And it does tie actually back to a piece that we covered, I think one of our last shows. The piece being United is buying those supersonic jets. And one of the things we talked about was the price. It's probably going to be a bit of premium, just like the Concorde was, or the Concordia, or whatever it was.
Concorde.
In the past.
Right.
Thank you. The same thing is going to apply to this, and I'm not quite sure if the market is really there for this sort of new travel.
We'll see.
Who knows? People will pay crazy amounts of money for silly things as is. And those NFT, some of these NFTs have been popping off in ridiculous ways. People spend money on more silly things, so we'll see. But again, I don't really know why he being Bezos, putting all of his eggs in a basket of this Blue Origin project, when he already has this just giant of a company, Amazon. He'll be going up into space. I think we said, 15 days after he resigns as CEO next month. Well, I guess that means he'll be resigning in about 2 weeks, I suppose. That makes it from now, or about. Who knows? I mean, he's not going to leave the spotlight. We know that. And maybe he'll even found another company that's even more successful than Amazon. The point being, I really just don't understand the allure to Blue Origin. It doesn't directly compete with the likes of SpaceX and what they want to do, which is kind of what I thought it was going to be. We talk about when you become a trillionaire, you get interested in space, right? I don't really understand his fascination with this sort of aspect of it. And I'm not really that vested and interested in it, or pour my energy into all of it.
Definitely. Anything to add, Ryan?
Oh, not really.
Cool.
It just is. It just is.
It just kind of is that way. It's just like, yeah, we'll see what becomes of this.
Exactly. Well, the last story we have for you tonight is actually kind of cool, and I think it's really cool, for NFTs at least. We have an NFT that's being auctioned right now for the World Wide Web code. One of the inventors of the World Wide Web, Tim Berners-Lee, is auctioning off his code for his original code for the World Wide Web as an NFT. And it's currently at $2.8 million right now, which is the original source code for the internet, which is super cool. And I think it's really cool. We'll see. But that's just our obligatory NFT article for today. So
I think it's Orion, you go first.
I should probably disclaim that I am invested in the crypto that a lot of NFTs are built upon. So
that being Ethereum.
No, a lot of them are built on Teslas too now. But regardless of that, I don't know. I still think it's a cool idea. I still like the idea of having only the highest res version be available to the person who bought the NFT. But at the same time, that person can then buy it and then just distribute the highest res version. So I don't know. I like them. I think they're a cool idea. I think it's a great way to distribute like really, really insanely high-res art or even digitally created art.
What about code?
I'm very much an open source person.
There you go.
I think it's pretty neat. I think of all of the instances of different NFTs that we've covered on the show, and we talked about in pre-shows and in our chat. We mentioned today earlier Mila Kunis. The last person I would think of to be involved in NFTs went on one of Conan's last shows last week, and revealed that during the pandemic she dove into NFTs and created her own, and is very cerebral about it, very into it. Of all the things that we've covered, art and Olympic pins and YouTube videos, I think this is probably one of the most apropos applications of an NFT, that being a digital token for a digital thing, a digital, I don't know what to call it, a thing.
Right.
I think it's very cool. Obviously, I mean, the World Wide Web is a mainstay of, I mean, we'll put it bluntly, of life as we know it in 2021. If it weren't for the World Wide Web, where would we be? What would we be doing right now? How would we be broadcasting this? I mean, how would we be interacting? I mean, so many, it's domino effect. What's that?
Number 50, the internet.
There you
Well,
go.
either way, I think it's very cool. I like it. This is probably the one NFT that I'm really behind. Again, we talked about this in pre-show and in chat. We talked about NFTs, one of our first shows on YouTube and all the streaming platforms when we made our comeback here. And it was, when I brought it up with you guys, it was because I had watched another YouTuber, I won't say his name, whatever, Logan Paul, I'll say it.
Free clout.
I'm not saying free clout, but I mean, you should shout out the people that, bring attention to this stuff. If it weren't for that, I'm not sure we would really be talking about NFTs, to be honest with you. But he brought up as this, thing he saw was going to be coming up. It was going to be a big thing, and everyone should watch out for it. And I honestly saw that and went, that's stupid. That will never catch on. I can't wait for this thing to fail.
And then you started talking about NFTs after that, right?
Well, his NFTs did not fail. They exceeded his expectations. And not only that, but the NFT market has almost exploded here, and has garnered interest between art people and art museums to YouTubers to, the World Wide Web founder. It's become this sort of new age media thing, not media, I suppose, but this new age collectible market, bringing collectibles into the digital age.
Curio shop almost.
Yeah, bringing collectibles into the digital age, and I really did not anticipate it to become this sort of big force that it's becoming, and being adopted so quickly, and being applied in so many different industries and in ways, but it has. We literally say this at the end of every one of these articles. We'll see where it takes us. We'll see where it goes. We're seeing where it goes. We're seeing where it takes us, and we still haven't even seen where it's gonna peak.
Right.
We really haven't seen where it's going. We're seeing where it is now and where we think it's gonna be. It really is just this really crazy, wild, new age curio shop collectibles market that I don't think a lot of people expected, and I really think is really unique, and it's just really different.
Definitely. Well, I'm gonna probably close this out now. We've been on way longer than I thought we would be tonight.
Yeah.
We didn't
As
really.
we said, we wanted to make the show short.
Yeah, we wanted to make this short, and then we started rambling. But anyway, anybody have any closing remarks before I close this out today? I'll take that as a no. But anyway, thank you all.
Oh, well, have a happy 4th, everyone.
There you go. Yes.
4th is on this Sunday, so have a happy and safe 4th of July for all of our United States folks and listeners. For all of our Canada listeners, happy Canada Day. I know that's coming up. It's before 4th of July. I don't know if it already happened, but hopefully it hasn't. So happy Canada Day, happy 4th of July. Celebrate safe, have a good time with your friends and family, and enjoy it in this hopefully coming out of a pandemic time.
For sure. Alrighty, well, thank you everybody for watching today. Be sure to tune in to our social media, which will be a renewed presence coming up soon. And stay tuned for more episodes of Tech Talk Nation. We're trying to get on a more regular schedule here. It's just been crazy these last couple weeks, so we'll try to work something out. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and tune in next time. Have a great week and a happy 4th.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Tech Talk Nation. Tune in next week for more discussion on the latest in tech.